Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time zone you are in. I'm so excited to have you guys here with us today. This is the BIM Manager Community virtual meetup, and today we are going to be talking about communicating in 4D using the Navisworks Timeliner. So I have a wonderful presenter with us today. Kalin is going to walk us through a great presentation. While we're waiting for everyone else to join, though, we do have over 300 people registered. So I do want to give everyone time to get set up on their WebEx or not WebEx, the GoToWebinar, and get their audio connected. So while we're doing that, if you could let me know where you are joining from, just go ahead and type that in the Q&A panel. And I'd love to, just give a shout out to a few of the names that come up. It looks like we have some from Pakistan, Barcelona, Mexico, Colorado here in the States, Tennessee, Saudi Arabia. We definitely have a very wide range of people attending, so this is wonderful. We have Mohammed from Egypt, and Canada is on board from Toronto, Wichita, Kansas, Morocco. Excellent. Excellent. So nice to have everyone here. We have Northern Ireland. Wonderful. Great. So just to give you a little heads up, we are recording this, and I love that you're already familiar with the question panel, because I will have you type your questions in the Q&A panel so that you can ask those questions live. And as there's a break in the presentation, I will interrupt Kalin to ask some of those questions. So I'm going to give everyone just another minute or so to get logged in and get their audio working. Okay, so Mohammed is saying he is having a problem with the audio. Kalin, can you hear me okay? Or is anyone else having issues as well?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'll try to, once I turn the presentation over to you, I'll try to help Mohammed out with that. And I'm going to actually turn off my camera and see if that helps as well. So Mohammed, are you hearing anything yet? I know it's been kind of in and out. Okay, so Tom Richards is saying change the audio device in use. That's actually the advice I was going to give him. I'll type that in as soon as I turn everything over to Kalin. So great advice, Tom. Okay, great. I see some of you saying loud and clear. Mariel is in from Germany. Nice to have you here. Great. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Kalin, if you'll go to the next slide. Okay, so just a few orders of business before I turn time over to Kalin. Your line is muted to reduce background noise. For those of you that have come in every month, this is just regular orders of business. We are recording the session, so if you would like to watch this later, or maybe you think it's very valuable and you want to share it with a coworker, you will receive a copy of the recording after the fact. And where you registered for this, you'll also have the opportunity to go look in there for previous sessions that we have recorded as well. If you do have a question, you have two choices. You can raise your hand in the Q&A panel, or you can type the question into the question panel where you've been typing where you're coming in from. And like I said, a link to the recording, a link to the session is going to be emailed out to everyone. Next slide there, Kalin. So we do have Kalin Gruya with us. He is a BIM implementation consultant in the UK, right? You're in the UK, right?
I am, yes, yeah.
Okay, making sure I'm not. I have 9 different meetups going on this week, so I want to make sure I'm not getting anyone confused.
That's fine.
All right, well, wonderful. I'm really excited to have you on, Kalin. I know you are an expert in Navisworks and specifically in Timeliner, so I think it's going to be a great presentation. Do you mind telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in the UK. I've been with Autodesk for about 12 years now, and I started straight after Autodesk bought Navisworks. Some of you might have been around in those times, I'm sure. I worked on Navisworks as the principal QA person, so kind of responsible for the quality of the product. And then I worked on products such as BIM 360 Glue, which some of you might be familiar with, and lately the BIM 360 Next Generation, which is the current product that Autodesk is presenting now.
Yes, yes. In fact, we have had quite a few webinars going on to help people learn how to work remotely, specifically on BIM 360 design. So if you haven't seen those, let me know. I can send you a link to those sessions so that you can get registered. We still have a couple more going on this week and a couple more going on next week. So good time to get into those. All right. Well, I see we have quite a bit of a crowd already, so I think I'll just go ahead and turn the time over to you, Kalin, so that you can present Timeliner.
That's great. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Michelle, for having me. Thank you all for coming to this webinar. We will be talking mainly about Timeliner today. It's kind of the tool of choice, the desktop tool of choice, and the leading tool that Autodesk has at the moment. There are some efforts to kind of create some new functionality for 4D in the cloud, but this is the desktop tool we're discussing today, and it's in support of the course that Connected Learning of Autodesk has on the website. Now, we will not be talking a lot about Civil 3D and how you bring geometry into Timeliner. That's just one way of bringing geometry into Timeliner. You can do it from any other applications. But we will be talking about what you do once you have the data into Navisworks and how Timeliner can help you create 4D visualizations. So what is Timeliner? So Timeliner is a tool that adds a schedule simulation to Navisworks, as we said. It allows import of schedules from the most popular applications out there for the construction industry. Once the data is into Navisworks, we can see planned and actual dates and create a simulation based on that. And it allows us to export images and animations based on the simulations that we create, and also allow us to kind of synchronize and bring the latest data from those schedules to map to our geometry. What it does, well, it has a quite wide range of support for the most popular scheduling applications out there and project management applications such as Primavera P6. It connects to a server of Primavera P6 standalone and web services up to version 8.3. It opens Microsoft project files, 2007 to 2013, Asta Power Project, and also has support for MPX and CSV. He also produces a Gantt chart representation of the schedule once it's imported into Navisworks. It then allows us to automatically add objects to tasks, and we do this based on rules. Automatically adds tasks based on object sets, so if we don't have the tasks, we can do them from the geometry, so that'd be the other way around. It allows us to define task types, although Navisworks comes with its own three pre-loaded task types. It allows us to put in cost representation for each of the tasks, construction tasks or demolition, etc. It then allows us to create a visualization of the simulation of how things are being constructed step by step. Onto that simulation, we can put data, accruing costs and times, when we'll look at that a bit later. Plan versus actual display, as we said. And at the end, it even allows us to export the simulations that we create in some of the most popular formats, such as AVI, JPEG, PNG, or bitmaps. It's only fair to say what is not and what it doesn't do. It's definitely not a project management software, so Navisworks doesn't have a scheduling brain as such, which means that if you do move a task in Timeliner, you will not automatically change the other tasks because it's not intended to be a project management software. But what it does, it brings these schedules from popular software such as Primavera and Microsoft Project, and then it allows you to attach geometry to those tasks in order to animate the construction process. It's definitely not a quantification tool, although it has a cost field where you can kind of add costs of each task. Navisworks has a dedicated quantity takeoff feature, which some of you might be familiar with, and that's where cost is actually being done. Timeliner only allows us to kind of see accruing costs based on the data that we key in. And the support for the data sources is only on those specified versions, which I mentioned on the previous slide. It is almost an impossible task to try to keep up with all the possible versions of all the possible softwares out there that we support. So in terms of looking at tasks, I prepared a few videos for you, and I'm kind of just going to talk over. Please let Michelle know if there's any questions or save them up until the end. We're going to have a Q&A section right at the end. But initially, we're going to look at how we prepare a model for scheduling. So how we optimize the geometry and how we group things together into selection sets and into search sets. We will generate tasks based on those sets. So here we can either create manual tasks, so we can auto add tasks based on the sets names. We can attach objects to tasks. So after we've created a task, we can then either manually or auto attach the geometry onto those tasks with rules, using rules. We look at the Gantt chart functionality, how we can navigate it, and how we can edit the tasks graphically within the Gantt interface. And then we'll also look at other things that we have in the task bar of Timeliner, such as how you can add custom fields, how you can look at all the other data that comes in from the data sources. And then we'll look at a way of exporting the schedules as well. So here's the first video in which we open a file, which we'll also find in the course when you go to do the course that the Connected Learning has for you. We will dock two panels in Navisworks. One would be the selection tree and the other one would be the sets. In here, we can see that some other sets have been created. But just to recap, for those who are not familiar with this feature, in order to create a set, you select, let's say, multiple items on the screen. And then you just save that selection and name it. In this case, I've selected some mullions from one of the facades. In the same way we create search sets, we can also do, in the same way we create selection sets, we can also do search sets. So we docking the find items panel, we can search for all the items which have a type equal to curtain panels, for example. And then when we say find all, Navisworks goes and finds all those items within the model. And from that selection, we then create a search set. Why is this relevant? Because this is the best way to kind of group elements within Navisworks in order to attach to tasks. And we'll look at that right now. So let's dock the Timeliner window. And here, I think first thing that we'll do, we'll just create some manual tasks just to kind of give you an idea what the process entails. So here's us making a brand new task, which we'll call panels, for example. We'll have to give it a start date and an end. And then if we just expand this panel a little bit, we can see that there is an attach column. Now, the best way to attach geometry to a task is just basically drag and drop it onto the task. And now, if we kind of click away from the selection and click back onto the link, we can see that indeed that set has now been attached to that task. Looking at task types, the Configure tab in Timeliner allows us to create different types of tasks. So we could have construct, demolish, and temporary, and depending on which time they appear in the simulation, they will appear in a particular different way, which can be defined. So if we look, for example, at the construct task, at the start of its time to being constructed, it can look in many different ways. The default would be kind of transparent, but not green transparent, but we can kind of change that to whatever we like. And this is where you defined all those appearance definitions that you can then use to create different configurations. So here's how you can add one, or you can modify the existing ones. So let's go ahead and create one task type. I think we'll make one and we'll call it permanent. And because it's a permanent feature, we don't want it to change in any way throughout the process. We want it to show the actual model itself at the beginning when it's being constructed, or at the beginning of the simulation. And if we go back to our tasks, we can now add either of those task types that we've seen, including the ones that we just created. So here's our permanent task. Now, apart from the columns that we looked at already, Navisworks has many other which you can kind of add and delete as you like. You can change their order in the list, etc. We can make custom ones with the user fields. Here I've added a material cost one, for example, and let's give this a nominal kind of value, and you can see how everything totals up in the total cost. Now let's delete this task that we added manually, and let's remove the two example sets that we created. And let's find the topography within this model where, yeah, that's it. We're going to select that and create a set. So that'll be just the ground or the groundworks. And we'll save that selection and maybe call it site. At this point, we can auto add tasks based on every single set. So just by clicking that simple button, Navisworks added a task for every single set, and he attached that particular set to the particular task that it created. This is very, very useful when you have hundreds of sets within your model. Obviously, I'm keeping it simple here for you. I've just got 5 sets, or sorry, 6 altogether now. Here's how you can add the start and date planned dates. You can see it kind of keeps track of the fact that it's a weekend there, so it moved from the 10th onto the 13th onto the walls task. And the task for the site we were going to make lasts for the duration of the project, from the 7th all the way to the 14th. Now let's just imagine that we just had the tasks added, but we didn't have any geometry attached. This is the other way around that I was talking about earlier. Based on rules within Timeliner, we can say for every task, attach all the sets of pieces of geometry which match the name of the task. So we apply that, and straight away Navisworks does the work and puts the sets back into the list. In terms of the Gantt chart representation here, you can kind of see a graphical showing of the duration of the tasks. You'll be familiar with this from other project management softwares. Of course, you can zoom and kind of see more granular time display. You can change the tasks by just dragging them or expand them if you wish. And there's also a progress slider, which kind of shows you how much of the task has been completed. Right. The other thing that you can do is, once you're happy with your schedule and you customize it the way you want it, you can export that to a CSV or to Project XML. In terms of, so that would be the way we kind of create our own schedule, the manual work that we do in Navisworks. We've made tasks manually and then automatically based on the geometry that we have. But I think the way Timeliner is used out there, the power users are using it by importing an actual schedule from an external application. And that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to import a CSV schedule, for example, which is come from either a Primavera export or an ASTA export or Microsoft project, or purely from Excel. We'll be mapping all the schedule entries to tasks. by using the mapping table. And we will populate the schedule from the data source. So once all the mapping is done, we'll tell Timeliner to go and create the schedule for us. And we will also show how, when the schedule changes, Navisworks can synchronize and bring in the latest scheduling information. And we'll also look at how we edit and remove the data sources. So back in the same model, we have an empty schedule here. We click on the data sources button, and here we can see all the other applications that we can bring data from. Here's a reminder of all the ones that are supported currently. In our case, we'll do a CSV import, and I've prepared a CSV file for you, which once we open, we get the mapping table. Let's just have a quick look at this CSV file and see how it's kind of structured. The columns are at the top with the values, so straightforward. You got task types in there, you got start and finish, etc. So that's the Navisworks side, and this is the side where the data from the CSV file is arriving. So let's map the task name to activity name, the display name to ID, same mapping for the synchronization ID. Let's use the start dates from the actual CSV file. And once we click OK, Navisworks has mapped this data source. And all we have to do now is just click refresh of all the data sources. And we say we want to build the task hierarchy from this. Sure enough, if we go back to our tasks tab, we can see all the tasks which have been imported with their names, with their start and end date, and we can see how the Gantt chart has been populated. Should the data change at any point, all we have to do is just go and resynchronize, and the Navisworks will go and pull the data and all the changes in terms of schedule from the external data application.
So a great question just came in from Horatio. If the tasks were imported from an MS project file, the percent complete from that file is also imported to Navisworks?
Say that again. Sorry, I think you were cutting off right at the end there, Michelle. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to turn the video back off then. So Horatio asked the question, if the tasks were imported from a MS project file, the percent complete from that file is also imported to Navisworks?
No. The only thing that it will show is the length of the task. Unfortunately, it doesn't import the progress.
Okay.
The progress in Timeliner is purely for kind of to give you an idea. It doesn't actually affect functionality in any way in terms of how we simulate the schedule later on.
Okay, great. And then one other question came in from Felix. Is there interoperability between Navisworks and 3ds Max for better visualizations?
So Navisworks will open. FBX is coming from 3D Max, but there's no plugin that directly kind of switches back to 3D Max like you would have for Revit or for AutoCAD.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll swiftly move on to the simulation itself. This is what everyone really wants to see. So simulation will be effectively a film, will be a representation of the order of things in which the construction process is happening. So, things will be appearing and disappearing off the screen depending on their type, on the task type that they've been attached to, and they will follow that set of rules that we gave it in terms of transparency and colors, etc. So we'll have a look at how we play back a simulation and the basic controls of the transport bar. We'll have a look at how we can override the times. So for large construction projects which take many months to complete, you can actually change only the particular times you want to look at. We'll look at duration increments. So obviously this kind of governs how long the simulation playback will be. We'll look at adding overlay text on top of our simulation to kind of show how cost increases and how kind of time passes. We will then link our timeliner simulation to an animation, which we also created in Navisworks for kind of better viewing points and better presentation. And then we will look at all the types of simulations that timeliner can show, whether it's planned or actual, etc. And then we'll also do a simulation export, which kind of allows us to output the simulation onto a different formats such as AVI for sending to other stakeholders. So we're back in our model with all our tasks created, with all the sets kind of attached to our tasks. And we click on the Simulate tab, and straight away we can basically just press the play button. And now we can see how the site was there from the beginning. Objects appear in light green when they start to construct, and they solidify once they've been constructed. So we started with the footing, and then the foundations, and then the columns, then the horizontal side of things. And right at the end, after the weekend has passed on Monday, the walls have been built. If only all construction projects would happen like this, if only every building would be built in 5 days, that'll be fantastic. But this is literally just to give you an idea of how things happen. The transport bar allows you to kind of move into increments. You can kind of even drag the sliders. You can kind of navigate through your simulation. And most importantly, we can also give it an exact time as to when we want the simulation to start. This might not be too revealing right now, but when you have a simulation which lasts many months, then that's quite useful to be able to just jump to a particular time. The settings box allows us to override the start and the end date. So for example, we want to see what's been happening before or further on into our simulation. So in this case, we're not starting on the 7th as we did before. We started on the 9th and up until the 10th. And now we're only playing the simulation for that particular time duration that we're interested in. Please bear in mind that this will not make the simulation shorter in terms of total duration. You'll basically just create more increments for that particular time frame that we're interested into simulating. So this will still last 20 seconds, just like the main, the entire simulation. And this is kind of how you control the interval size. So, you know, how many steps in terms of percent, weekdays of minutes are being shown into one frame of the simulation. You can override the total duration in seconds of the simulation if you want to. But most importantly, this is how we add the overlay text that will kind of put in data as the simulation progresses. So let's just add a date and time entry in there. And then maybe let's create another line. And let's put the cost. I think it was material cost that we added in the previous exercise. And most importantly, we'll put this at the top of everything. We probably just want all the text to be, let's say, in blue. You can also change the font, everything else you want. And let's ask timeliner to play that simulation, that text right at the top. So the overlay text will be at the top. Sure enough, when we play our simulation, now we can see kind of the dates increases. So the date and the time plus the cost that I've kind of attached to each task, growing as things are being constructed, as the schedule is being consumed. Another thing that we can do within the settings is we can add viewpoints animation. Some of you might be familiar how you make viewpoints animation in Navisworks. It's literally just creating viewpoints, and then the kind of the system creates camera rotation and navigation between them. So this is for a more you know, more angles, better visualization of how things are happening, how things are changing. So this is doing a simulation of creating objects and constructing them while at the same time rotating the camera. One last thing in the settings, of course, you choose what you want to see in the simulation. So it's a plan versus actual, etc. You know, it'll play the schedule that you want to do. So you can have one simulation for the plan dates and one for the actual dates. In terms of exporting, there's a button right at the end of the transport bar. We choose to export the timeliner simulation. In this case, the renderer will leave it as viewport. You can do it as Autodesk, which is using our Autodesk rendering engine. It's quite resource consuming, but incredibly good looking. So that's what you do when you have the time and the power. We'll export, in this case, an AVI without compressed frames because we only have a small simulation, but depending on the codecs that you have installed in your machine, these will be mapped and shown here. And let's say the size, we'll just leave it as aspect ratio. On the right side of the screen, you can see the frames per second, so you can choose that and anti-aliasing options as well. So here's me, I've saved that, I've specified the location where to save this export, and Navisworks is doing just that. This is real time, by the way, this is not me speeding things up. And sure enough, Media Player will then play the AVI that we exported, the whole simulation. And this can be sent to all the other stakeholders in the project. That's really it in terms of how it works. I think I am at the half-hour mark, if I'm correct. Yes, 1 minute over, but I couldn't resist. I've got a simulation here, which is made by one of my colleagues from the Navisworks team in Sheffield. And I just wanted to play you this video for which is a 1 minute video, just to kind of give you an idea of what can be done and what can be achieved using Timeliner.
Excellent. And while that plays, I'll just encourage everyone, if you do have additional questions, go ahead and type those into the question panel. You can see from this video how powerful Navisworks is in really communicating the design and how things will be built. Would really help a lot when, you know, scheduling contractors and making sure you can get all the equipment in, because you could actually include equipment in these simulations as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a combination of Navisworks using Viewpoint animations and Animator animations as well within Navisworks.
Yeah, it looks wonderful. So if you do have questions, definitely type those into the Q&A panel. Let us know, you know, what we can help you with. So Horatio is asking a great question. Is there any tutorial to set up the viewpoints and settings to export the animation? I had a problem when exporting, maybe because of the file size.
Yeah, so that just brings me on to my last slide, really, which features a link there to the Timeliner overview. And I think on that section right there, which I should be posting on the chat window. Let's have a look. Just copy that in there.
Okay, so Jose, while you're posting that, Jose is asking the question, what is the best new feature for this year? Well, Jose, that is perfect timing. Actually, next month's session is going to be all about the new features. We'll be talking with the product manager for Navisworks, and he'll come in and show you all the great new features for Navisworks, and you can decide for yourself which one is the best feature for you and your firm. And Jacob's asking the question, can you simulate also temporary structures and equipment?
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. So one of the task types that we looked at in there was temporary. So that's for things like scaffolding, for example. You can just show it in green as it appears. and then when it stops, when its end date is there, he will kind of just change to whatever color you like it to, or disappear all completely. So yes, you can simulate things appearing and then disappearing. Do we have any more?
Sorry, I'm sitting here asking questions and I just realized I turned my mic off.
That's fine.
Yeah, so Elise is asking, how does Timeliner compare to Synchro Pro?
I am not totally familiar with Synchro Pro. Usually what happens is companies will create a particular piece of software which kind of tends to do something really, really well. And, you know, sometimes Navisworks will be better, or sometimes that application will be better. I think what Navisworks and the whole BIM 360 solution is trying to offer is kind of a holistic solution for all your needs, rather than just one thing really well in isolation. So yeah, so I think it's best to kind of try both and kind of make your mind up. In terms of scheduling, this is pretty much what Timeliner does at this point in time.
Okay, I'm just going back and seeing if I've missed any. Okay, so a question came in from Mohammed. How do you control the rendering of the video? It looks better than what we did earlier.
Yeah, so the video that you see now, which my colleague has made, also uses the Autodesk kind of rendering engine. So I don't know if you remember, at some point we showed how you can render using the viewport, which is just a normal geometrical, no textures, no shadows, no lighting kind of a render, versus the Autodesk bit. It's very heavy on resources. You know, as a software company, you can strive to kind of make the most complex software out there, but you have to constantly be mindful of the hardware limitations, which, you know, are the bottleneck. So sure enough, you can make the simulation look like the one I've showed at the end, but using the Autodesk engine, but, you know, expect that to take quite a long time, because every frame will have to be rendered as if you're rendering a view from Revit, for example. Right. Any more?
Yep, I'm here. I'm just looking through the questions to see if we've missed any others. Do you have any more details on the two types of animations used in the demo video? And that's coming from Daryl.
Yes. So why don't we quickly pop up Navisworks? We have the time, haven't we, Michelle?
Yes, Michelle, we do have a full hour. Yeah, we have 20 more minutes.
Okay. Right, so here's my Navisworks opened. I'm just going to drag that onto the screen. And let's open the previous model that we had. So there are two types of animation within Navisworks. One is called the Viewpoint Animation. And this is kind of the simplest one, where literally you just, say we just dock the viewpoint screen, where you just make a starting point and kind of key points in within, and then you add those to an animation, and then when you say play, then what the system does, it kind of just navigates in between those the viewpoints that you made, so it kind of creates frames in between. Here's one when it's moving to from the start. Now it's zooming in onto position 1, and then once it gets here, it's going to start moving on to position 2, and so on. So that'll be the way you kind of animate a camera within Navisworks. The other feature, which we might want to do a whole hour or at least a couple of hours on, would be Animator, which is closer to a linear animation editor. Those of you which have been around in the days of Flash, actually, to be fair, even now the latest cinematic editors, most of them are still linear, where you can kind of add objects in here, and then you create keyframes in here, and then you can kind of animate how those objects are moving. So you could be playing the camera moving and showing the whole model in a different way, while objects are also animating and moving at the same time. So these will be the two types. One would be the viewpoint animation, and the other one is the animator animation. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because, like I said, that will be a session on its own when we look at Animator. Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. And let's see, how do you input the actual status of construction?
The actual status, yes. So in the same way we had, let's look at timeliner again. Let's look at data sources. So let's say, again, a CSV import. If in my schedule in here, I would have had another set of dates, which would be not just start and finish, will be plan start, plan finish, and actual date and actual finish. Then you see how Navisworks kind of has a different set of fields for that. And then when you play the simulation, you can play the simulation based on these rather than the planned ones by just choosing this option right here, actual rather than planned. I hope that answers the question. So yeah, it's all done in the matching here. So what was the CSV import? So even in here, I have plan date, so I can match to the plans, or if I would have had actual, I would have mapped to the actual dates. Yeah.
And there's a question from Daryl. How do we use the Autodesk render image engine? Is there something special they need to download or anything?
Yeah, maybe I went over this a bit too quickly, but the Autodesk engine does come with Navisworks, and the selection when you do the export from this of the simulation is in here. In order to see the engine in its full glory, there is a render tab within Navisworks, and Autodesk rendering kind of shows you how things look. So I don't know what my lighting is in this model, but I'm going to click this button. And ray trace. I think that kind of indicates what I was saying earlier. It does take a long time. If I was to cancel this, and maybe even on the lowest quality with all the amounts of polygons they have in here, the render takes quite a long time, which is why we have render in the cloud, where you're actually pushing your model up in the cloud to servers which have 16 cores and I don't know how many gigs of RAM and powerful graphics cards, where the rendering can happen a lot quicker than this. But yeah, that's how you can kind of see what you're going to be getting as in onto one frame to see whether it's worth your effort to then go and export the simulation as an Autodesk render.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, and Horatio's asking the question, is there any functionality in which you can show a graph for the cost?
At the moment, the overlay is only text. So as the simulation plays, you can only kind of show text for the cost. Yeah.
Great. All right, and the next question, can you simulate the displacement of the structure during construction? For instance, incremental launching of the bridge from pier to pier. I would probably do it with Animator. Would you agree with that?
You could probably, yes, you can play a simulation, and while the simulation is playing, the other objects would kind of move within Animator. Let me see if I have that wonderful model from where that simulation was created before, just to give you guys an idea. Of what can be done. Look. Where's my folder? Here it is. Let's see if it's this one. It might be. Yes, I think it's this one. Okay, let's see if the simulation will play here. There you go. So this is animating how the groundwork is being done. And then while the angle of the camera was moving, you can also see objects kind of moving around. So if we look at the settings of this one, we can see that it's selected, that it is linked onto the viewpoints animation, and the viewpoints animation within has links into the animator animation, which I will show here, and see how each of these are different objects which kind of do different things from one frame to another. And Navisworks is playing all of those together. We might, if this is of great interest, we might do a workshop on this as well, Michelle. You know, like I said, without really understanding Animator, you can't really explain it fully. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of a
it does take a bit of time to set up Animator, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So the question came in: does the render in cloud consume CCs? So I'm guessing you're talking about cloud credits, and I don't know if the Navisworks render in cloud does consume cloud credits. Do you know that answer?
So from a simulation point of view, you cannot render in cloud for the simulation purposes. The render in the cloud is for just kind of rendering a particular screenshot or a particular view within Navisworks. Unfortunately, for rendering the simulations, you're kind of limited to using your machine. But that's an absolute great suggestion. Considering that you do consume credits per frame, I suspect it would be quite costly to, render using the cloud a whole simulation, which has, let's say, I don't know, 3,000 frames.
Okay, great. All right, and Daryl is saying thank you. Autodesk Render must have improved a lot recently, as your video looked a lot better than the first we created a few years ago. Perhaps it's your model render setup or the difference in the free versus paid renders.
Yeah, so the renders that you use, so the renders that came out of this model, we've done them in the Sheffield office using quite a few machines over quite a few days. So yeah, it did take a lot of effort.
Okay, and I think I missed a question from Mohammed. Are we able to compare the actual and planned in Timeliner? So correct me if I'm wrong, but they can set up different view styles for
Yes.
actual versus planned, right? Yeah.
There you go, planned actual differences.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. Okay.
All right, that's all the questions that I see so far. If you do have additional questions, or if you would like me to open up your line to ask any questions, let me know by raising your hand in the or the attendee panel. I'll just take a look there. I do see one hand that came up, so let me go and unmute you. I may be pronouncing this wrong, Kamala. I'm unmuting your line. Oh, it won't let me unmute your line.
Should I change the presenter back to you, Michelle?
No, I think we're good. I think we're good. If you want to go back to the slides, though, we can close out.
There was one slide left, I guess, which you might want to talk about just before we.
Okay, and Kamal, it won't let me unmute your line, unfortunately, so if you want to type your question in the Q&A panel. Okay, so Don Pecura is asking the question, what is actual and planned? Is actual modeled or point cloud? I'm not sure I understand the question there, Don. Let me see
I
if I
think
can.
actual and planned just really means that, you know, we had a plan that we were going to build a foundation starting on the 1st and finishing on the 5th, but, you know, we started late because the groundworks were not finished yet. So the actual dates were, I don't know, the 2nd, and then the end was the 7th. So Navisworks kind of allows you to show a simulation separately, one for how things were planned and how they're actually being done. Yeah.
And Don, I'm going to open up your line. Don, you're now unmuted. Do you want to expand on your answer or your question, or did he answer that?
Thanks. I think he answered that. I didn't realize it was just based on the timing. I thought perhaps it was based on the real world status of the project and visuals, perhaps.
It's just literally two parallel worlds, the planned world and the actual world, and it's all to do with timing, Don.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Oh. I think your mic is going crazy, Kalin.
Me?
Yeah, I just got a lot of feedback all of a sudden, or maybe it was mine, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was muted and I was still doing it, so yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe finally unmuted. Let me go make sure that moves. Okay. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in. So let me just tell you a little bit about what you're seeing on your screen here. If you go to autodesk.com/connected learning, there are a number of courses for BIM managers, and specifically there's a Communicate Design Intent learning path that includes a lot of the information that Kalin talked about today. The nice thing about this is you can actually try it. The same data set that he was using is available, and so you can go in and use our data sets to practice doing a 4D simulation or a timeliner in Navisworks, and that will allow you to do it on our stuff and not allow you to mess it up on yours. And then when you're ready to actually do the work on your projects, you'll be much more informed and ready to do that. So I highly encourage it. Let us know what you think of the courses. Would love to know what you thought of this presentation. I thought Kalin did a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Kalin, for your diligence in preparing the presentation and the great job presenting it. So thank you. And if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to give you back about 7 minutes of your day. And I want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll join us next month when we talk with our product team and learn what is coming out in 2021. Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day.